Hi, mentors. So in this video, we tackle the last part of part 2 for meeting 4. So let's read Tagalog, and it's analyzing data, but not this part about answering these questions, but rather this match. So can you match the E's and the T's? So let's take a look. So we have this list of words or phrases. This is sorted by length. And then we know that this set of words or phrases transform or translates to this set, but not in the exact order because this is also sorted by length. So it's not going to be the case that just Tn corresponds to E. Oh, sorry, En corresponds to Tn. Sometimes, for example, E8 corresponds not to T8, but to T7 here. And so it's a little puzzle, a fun little puzzle that students will do. Make sure you help students if it's taking too long. And this should be the last thing you do in the meeting, this part of solving this challenge. Okay, so students should be perceived as the language detectives. They're investigating and just recovering the order. So it's this challenge. They should work in groups. And they should use mainly 3 or 4 tools. The graph, the dot plot, to find matches that are clear and not ambiguous at all. So we'll talk about what that means. Spanish, there's also a good use of Spanish. And finally, language deductions and logic. So logic could be included here or everywhere, really. Sometimes if students are really stuck, you could help them, right? For example, you could ask to translate to English, or they could ask you to translate to English one word, just one word from English to Tagalog or vice versa, just to get them unstuck. So they start like this in the workbook. They're given T1, T2, T4, and T10. And probably the first thing they could use is the Spanish. That may be a good first thing to start matching some. So of course, using Spanish, I mean, some already are given in the workbook, but tiger, tigre, that's easy. Bear also, so they mark that. They could notice that purple means lila, and that would be a way to find this one. So that's a little hidden. Pantera, panther is already done in the workbook. Dolphin, it's actually dolphin. So actually English, so not Spanish, but anyways, this is a rare case. And this is interesting also, green apples. They should notice at some point that the word verdeng means verde, which is green. And here we have manzanas just with S instead of Z in Tagalog. So they'll match E14 to T17. So they just write here T17. So Spanish helps a little bit. Hopefully I didn't miss anymore. But yeah, it gives you a good start, confident start. But then they should think, what else? What else can we do? And some students may think it's impossible. And some students may actually realize, okay, we have a graph in the previous page, and that graph gives us some information. So what can we say? The first point, for example, it's 3, 4. So it means that the length of the word in one language is the same as in another language. They already probably deduced that it's English and Tagalog. So 3, 4. They should know that a bear has to transform to also, right? So even not knowing Spanish. So here we did it because of Spanish, but even if they don't know Spanish, they should do that. Oh, sorry, no, I was talking about T. Sorry, the 3, 4. Let's keep looking. Yeah, the thing about the 5 here is that you have 2 options. So just knowing math, just knowing this graph representation doesn't get you to decide the word of 5 in English goes to what? It can go to 2 places. The word of length 5 or 8. 5 or 8. So here, what we're saying is that we needed English, right? Here, kind of technically. English and Spanish, we needed to know these languages. So let's use the graph. So the graph gives us these many possibilities. Let's see why. Black dolphin, 13. So I know that the graph has to have a point of length 13 in English, because I see here, black dolphin. Okay. So I look for my 13 in this axis, right? The horizontal axis, 13. And then luckily, I only see one point if I trace this line, right? This imaginary line, looking for words that would translate to Tagalog. There's only one such example, and that's 18. That's good. And now I also know that there's only one word of length 18 in Tagalog in this list, because look, there's no other points here. So I'm gonna go with these lengths, 13, 18. I go back here, 13, and then I look for the unique 18. It has to be unique. I already know it from the graph. And so I match T8, T8. I put it here. I already put it before the video, but so students would match it here, T8. Okay. Of course, we already crossed this, so I'm just illustrating, and notice that sometimes you can get information from different sources, whether Spanish, sometimes the dot plot, sometimes both. Same for the language deductions. So another example, and then move on. Let's do 22. The proof is in the pudding. Yeah, so really hard. Then I look for 22. I see that there's only one 22. I go to the graph and I ask my graph, okay, if the English is 22 in length, what are the possibilities of the, and then it's 27, and there's only one 27 in this graph. So that's good. So 22, 27. And 27 is T11, right? That's the only one of length 27. Now, what happens with it if I pick a point such as this little guy here, a word of length 25, right, in English? Well, it's hard because you have actually a lot of cases here. You can see that here, right? You have 3 words in English of length 25. That corresponds to the lengths of 32, 36, 37, 32, 36, 37. But so you have lots of ways to match these 3 to these 3. So that doesn't really help. The other interesting case is the following one, when you have repetition here. Let's say we want these 20. So we could maybe think that it's unique because there's only one point here in this vertical line. So 20, 28. And I would just say, oh, I'm just going to look for 28 in Tagalog for my unique 20. So out of sight, out of mind, 20. But the problem is that there's 2 28s, right? So I still need to decide, and the graph is not going to tell me which one. So one's going to be for 20 and the other's going to be for this 17. So what I do after I'm kind of exhausted all these graph without language, right? Just the pure math, so to speak. I still have 3, 4, 5, 6 matches to be done. Is that I get deeper and use logic and language structure. So I could do things that are interesting, such as the following. Let's look, for example, a crazy chart. This would be logic. I already matched 10 E6, right, to T7. So I already know that 110 goes with T6, which is a 17. I already know that 110 goes to 17. Let's see if I find that in my graph. 10 goes to 17 here. So the other 10 has to go to 15, right? And just by logic, it has to be the other one. So 10, 15, this 10 with this 15. 15 in the length. So I look for the only 15 that's here, and it's T5. It's kind of obvious because of the lengths, right? You wouldn't predict that this would be so big. So that's how I got this crazy shark. Let me actually get it in the other place, and that way we can be more clear on how to do this. So let's take a look at this now with more detail. So using the graph already depleted, so we just said crazy shark using language. We did it with language, structure and logic. And we got what? We got the crazy shark, which was T5. Okay. Okay, there's one that's pretty cool, this E11, this 20 that we discussed that we don't know which one is it. So students could also put options here. So it's either, let's see, let's put it here, sorry. So the 20 goes with either, oh, sorry, yeah, here it goes with 28 and 28, right? Or 28, which are these two, so 12 or 13. T12 or T13, sorry, T12 or T13. T12 or T13, and I should be here. 12 or T13, and I'm gonna see which one, 12 or 13. And what I notice is the language structure. This phrase is kind of a repetition, right? Out of something, out of something. So hopefully this structure is not 100% sure, right? But luckily and hopefully this structure is also the same in Tagalog, that you repeat some part of the phrase, right? And here we predict that walasa should be walasa, walasa. There's also a comma. So yeah, it looks really, I mean, 90% sure that it's gonna be T13. So I cross this and it's T13, okay? And so that's how I do it with the structure. And so let me mark it. And then the other 28, T12, I just look. Let's see if I can do it. 28 should go with 17. 17 here, reading is exciting. That should be the other T, right? T12. So these all mark also, sorry, T12 in the graph, in the structure. Reading is exciting. So yeah, let me also mark it because this was just logic, basic logic. So you're missing the logic and the language structure. What else can we do? Well, that's another thing that strikes pretty, right? It's pretty visible. Don't. You have a lot of don'ts. So hopefully students say, oh, then if I look for something that starts the same in this column, then that should be done. And it actually happens that wag, wag, wag. It's so that should help me make some. Another thing, it's another way to reason like this is look at these 25s, right? That they're kind of the same length. So one has book, right? And check what's cool is that we already match something having book or books with this. So what happens is that T19 should have a word that's book or books, right? Which one? Well, we can try to see the options for the 25, all the options, maybe except for T17, right? Which was 36. But let's look at the other two options that were matched with 25 in English. 25 in English, here. 32, 36, 37. So 32 and 37. And you'll see that ACLAT happens here and also here. So book. So you can conjecture that ACLAT is book, which in fact it is. And so you'll say here, this is book. So this T18 is the one about the book. You could also do it with the Huang. That's another way, because this don't already matches with these manzanas. So lots of ways to do it. So this T18, getting closer. This 25 then has to go with not 17 or 18, but with the other one. So with the 32, T14. Okay. And then, yeah, don't cry. So don't, T23, don't. Should go with something else, so we don't. So this, let's look at the graph first, 23, just to check. 20, 22, 23 has lengths 26. So yeah, we're deciding between this and this, between 9 and 10, or 10. Oh, sorry, here. And yeah, here what I'm gonna do is the HUAC. So HUAC, don't. So making that deduction, it has to be T10 here. And again, you can help your students if they don't notice, right? Because maybe they get stuck for a while. So, okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11. So this just by logic, right? It's the only one that needs to be matched. Should be T9. And we get the solution. Yeah, let me just check that I didn't make any mistakes. Yes, that's it. So we solved the problem. It's fun because it has a lot of variety, a lot of entry points. It's challenging, probably challenging, especially the last part. But I guess yeah, students can have a lot of fun, especially working in groups, testing theories and saying, no, that cannot be, or wow, how did you arrive to that conclusion? That's so cool, things like that. Okay, hope you had a lot of fun and see you in another video. Goodbye.